Somewhere between the tailgate smoke and the sound of shoulder pads cracking in Chapel Hill, there's a feeling. You know it. You felt it. That feeling in the air. Right before kickoff. That gut-level energy that says, we're Carolina, and we're built different. This ain't just Saturdays in the South. This is history. This is Kenan Stadium. This is Bill Belichick with a plan and a Tar Heel team with a grudge. You want smoke? Good, because we brought the whole damn fire. With Tommy Ashley, Joey Powell, and people who live and breathe Tar Heel football. Buckle up, y'all. It's game time. This is Inside Carolina Live.
It's the last week of the season. The last thing Carolina has left is its pride. No bowl hopes, no momentum, no storyline except one, and that is don't let NC State beat you again. They're waiting in Raleigh, and their crowd's ready, and their team probably smells blood. And Carolina, well, Carolina's got a chance to end a rough season with one honest swing, one game where effort and hate and rivalry mean more than anything else. I'm Joey Powell. He's EJ Wilson. This is Inside Carolina Live, brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt. And today it's all about the dog and the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the fight and the dog.
I think more so the fight and the dog.
Fight and the dog?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
Well, there have been times where I've figured that this team looks more like a three-legged dog trying to bury a turd on a frozen lake.
I could agree with that.
But let's hope that the dog has all of its legs today. And I hope that all of you listening to us have your belly still full from Thanksgiving. Last show of the year, man, it's a hell of a look to consider where things were 12 weeks ago or not 12 weeks, but whatever, before the season started, before TCU, and how things felt differently and looked differently. Mm-hmm. And here we are on a cold Saturday ahead of a game at Carter Finley that Carolina's got nothing to play for except not getting curb stomped again, and not getting smacked again, and not getting beaten by an NC State team that, let's be honest, this is their Super Bowl. And before we just start cocking over and putting a nicely coiled warm one on NC State, I have to admit, they care about this game. And I think caring about this game has gotten them over the hump more times than not when they've won these games. Like, I think they've won a lot of these games without being the better team, but because they've just found a way to be so much more invested. They've beaten Carolina and had Carolina's number.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can see, with all these streaks that they've kind of put together with winning against us these 5 years in a row, they've done it a few times in the last 50 years. I mean, they obviously wanted more. And I mean, when you think about with Dorn and just his presence in that program, he's going out and he's using this game as a recruiting tool, which is why I think NC State has been getting some of those recruits in the state that we haven't been getting, and some that I feel like should be at Carolina. But it really is rough. I mean, as a guy who works in the I work for the Economic Development Partnership in North Carolina, and I would say about 35% of our employees who really care about football are NC State alums. Yeah. And they've been talking trash to me since I took this job last January. So they very much care about this. That it is their Super Bowl. I don't care if they were 12-0 heading to the ACC championship game. This would still be the biggest game for them this year.
Well, it's crazy because North Carolina could win this game today, and that would change things a little bit. But I don't know that it changes. I don't know that it changes the tenor of the season. It absolutely changes the lead in for the offseason, right? I think it's just, you think Carolina fans have checked out, lose this game badly today, and you'll see that they're absolutely not checked out, and they're quite livid. Oh yeah,
you're hearing a mouthful for some of the folks, and that's kind of the thing. I was kind of taking the temperature with some folks over the last few weeks, like just asking folks. I normally try to avoid those conversations because most folks just want to talk about, do you think Belichick's going to turn around or this and that? But there are a lot of fans who are just like, I really don't know what to say about this, but if we can find a way to beat State, I think that this will at least give us some momentum and give us something to feel good about, give us some momentum in recruiting around the state and in the transfer portal.
It's crazy, man. I mean, when you look at this NC State roster, there's not a ton. and their record shows it. I mean, I think they're probably a game better than North Carolina is, maybe two. But when you look at what they've done this season, they don't have a ton to work with. I mean, on offense, Bailey's a good quarterback. Hollywood Smothers he could probably run a pork chop past a coyote. He's sure. Fast. He's a good running back.
Yeah.
I think Justin, I'm going to call him Jolly. They pronounce it Jolie, which I can't wrap my head around that. But I mean, he's a legitimate tight end and probably has a pro career ahead of him, but he's been banged up a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's just, we're right back where we are in most seasons, where both of these programs are very meh. Mm-hmm. And now their entire season will hinge on who wins this ball game. And it's just, it's weird, man. I mean, with their entire fan base having an entire Saturday to sit mm-hmm. and stew mm-hmm. and drink and whatever it is they do over there, mm-hmm. they're going to be right tonight.
Oh yeah.
They're going to be ready to go there. I mean, again, they'd rather beat North Carolina than breathe. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, with this North Carolina roster having so many new guys on it and not having the success that they may have wanted, how do they get amped for this? How do they get motivated? Because again, there's not as many guys that have the tie to the program and to the rivalry as there may have been in past years. Mm-hmm. And those guys couldn't seem to get up for this until after the game was over. And now you've got 70 new guys. How do they get up for this?
And I could say I've been a person who sat in that. As being a kid who grew up in Virginia, I didn't grow up around the UNC and NC State rivalry, but all it took was spending 1 week in that locker room during that game week to know that this is something that should be important to me. And it goes back to your point. It came from the seniors, the leadership, the lettermen, the guys who've been there, the guys who've gone to high school in North Carolina and had to draw a hard line in the sand in this football rivalry. And I just don't know if these guys are going to have it. You have 70 new guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe some of those freshmen that come in and some of those guys who manage to stay around, maybe they can inflect something in this team for this rivalry. But just going on what I've seen this season, if you can't get up for some of these other games and you can't play with the aggression and the heart that you need to in some of these other games, what makes me, I don't have anything to think that they are going to get up for this game. It's just not the makeup and the culture of the program this year. What does this game mean culturally and competitively for this rivalry, right? Like, it's, again, Dave Doran is I think he's now the winningest coach in NC State football history, which, there's probably a joke in there somewhere, but until North Carolina beats him, that joke has no punchline. Nope.
North Carolina is ending the first season of a massive rebuild, a massive commitment of resources to football. What does this game mean? I keep wanting to say really, but what does this game mean in those terms in competition? And then you mentioned the recruiting aspect, but I'm thinking more along the lines of just get your fan base something to rally around as you go into the offseason, right?
Yeah, I think this game is extremely important because, I mean, NC State has had the reputation of being the tough, physical, top-tier program in this state. And as Carolina fans and alum, we don't want to admit that, but just talking with some of my buddies in the NFL, like, they always they were very surprised that we had the number of guys in the NFL just because they viewed our program as soft at sometimes. And I think just internally, I think with those people who are allocating that money to the football program and those donors who are writing that big check, this matters. And normally I wouldn't talk about this in a football aspect, but it matters so much now because that money's going to drive what type of players we have in the portal. What can we promise these recruits when they come here and overall, it just shows the seriousness that you have towards your football program in today's landscape. So I think this game is super important for both recruiting, for what we have now, and just to change the perception of this Carolina program.
Does pride hit differently when you've got nothing else to play for? I mean, I think about, John Bunning had some rough years. I know you were part of one of those. I mean, does it show up differently even if the results haven't borne out on the schedule? Like, do you still find a way on game week this week to come in and find that chip?
Oh yeah, you do. And I think for us, especially with Coach Bunning, that what we had to play for was that none of us appreciated how he was fired in the first place. We didn't appreciate him being fired during the season. Yeah, we weren't winning a lot of games, but was he coaching us to be tough? Were we a disciplined team? Yes, we were. Did he truly, genuinely care about us? Yeah, he did. So we had a lot that we had a fire in our belly. It was like, okay, if John Bunning's not going to be here, he's given so much to this program, not only as a coach, but as a player, that we deserve to go out there and lay it on the line. And I think with these guys, they have to think about it like this is probably going to be the last time this group of guys is together. And for better or for worse, they've had their up and downs that have been a little bit more public. Yeah. I think this needs to be really a last stand of sorts for them.
I think it's going to go a long way, not just into the offseason, but also, that old deodorant adage, never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Mm-hmm.
The end of this season is the first impression, right? Like I think a lot of fans could probably tolerate, a 5-7 record, if they find a way to pull something out of their behinds against NC State.
Mm-hmm.
I think most folks could look at it and say, okay, we can see evidence, and this is something we've talked about on every show this year, is can you show me evidence that there's hope?
Mm-hmm.
Can you show me evidence or a reason to be hopeful?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's right there for the taking today, right? Wake, you didn't look good at all. I mean, they're uglier than a bowling shoe, just terrible. I don't know a nice way to put that. The Duke game, you had a chance and couldn't get off the field, when you needed a defensive stop. Today, you've still got a chance to salvage something, right? You've got a chance to salvage at least erasing the memories of last year when, we got guys throwing flags after the game's long over just because you're mad that NC State stomped on your field, right? If that makes you mad, beat them.
Yeah.
Don't let them beat you. I mean, we talked about it, and I've already got somebody in the chat. Bart Watts is already asking you for a positivity pod, but I mean, you think about it, NC State always comes out with a chip on their shoulder, and they'll start being chippy early in the game. They'll start trying to do things to get North Carolina out of their game. And I'm not crazy about playing that way, but if it gets you a win in a rivalry game, man, you do what you got to do. So what can North Carolina do to maybe get some of that edge where it has nothing to do with skill or execution? How can they have that edge when they run out of the tunnel today?
I think they have to have the mindset that they're going to stay firm in whatever they're doing. They're not going to get taken outside of their character. I'm not saying that this, and if I'm a coach, to be honest with you, a lot of listeners may not like to hear that, but I'm telling them, hey, if somebody does something to you, don't retaliate with something egregious, but don't let them come out there and push you around, or the ref's going to start ignoring that stuff. And the guy might get a warning for maybe a pulling or a face mask or something like that. At the end of the game, when the ref's watching for everything else, they're not going to be paying attention to that. Okay. So you have to come out and it's you have to liken this really to a battle in a war. And right now, our front lines has been getting pushed back over the last few years. So that really has to be the mentality coming out of that tunnel today. Like, this is not your normal game. If we were 12-0 and NC State was 0-12 or 0-11, whatever, coming into this game, I still think this will be a highly competitive game, simply from the nature of this rivalry. So you have to think that you have a chance in this game, because as we've seen, this is not the same caliber of NC State team that they've had over the last few years, especially on defense. So I think if we have any opportunity to really change the tide, this one is it. And hopefully the coaching staff has been preaching that to them this week, but that's also a unique thing because you don't have those coaches there who've been sitting there every year taking that waxing from NC State, who can put a little extra oomph in those guys. And that's important.
It's weird, man. I mean, it's so much of this defies logic, because I feel like the team that's been the better team most years doesn't win the game, right? But this absolutely, this can't be one of those situations where Carolina comes out softer than elevator music. Yeah. Like, you've got to come out ready to play. Explain to people what the difference is in having that edge and being stupid, right? That's a fine line to walk. And I feel like they being NC State usually bring the edge, whereas the North Carolina comes out and does the stupid side. What's the difference there?
The difference between that is if you're offensive lineman or if you're out on the edge and you're holding your block, you're not just standing there maybe where you can get a holding call or a face mask. You're literally trying to drive that person through the ground. You are finishing those blocks. If you're a lineman, I'm not worried about necessarily getting downfield. I am trying to maul this guy that's in front of me right now. I am trying to make sure that he's hesitant about how hard he comes the next play. If I'm a running back, when I carry out those play action fakes, I'm dropping my shoulder and I'm trying to run through a guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be the initiator of the contact and not receiving all those blows. I think some of those small things, like even with defensive linemen, we have to spill a lot of those blocks or either hammer it in. And with me, when we played NC State, I was trying to hurt people when I do that. And I know that's not necessarily a popular PC thing, but that's just the mentality I had. I am out there trying to crush people. Football is a gladiator sport. So I think this is one of those games where you have to have that gladiator mentality.
Yeah. And getting out of Carter Finley with a win will not be easy.
No.
Right. So it's one of those things where whatever you can do to create an edge for yourself, whatever you can do to create a small advantage, whatever you can do to win the proverbial chess game
mm-hmm.
of the football game. I think that's something North Carolina has to do. And, you can have opinions about what the staff may or may not have up their sleeves. I don't know. But I do know that North Carolina has to show whatever's left in the tank,
mm-hmm.
And there's so many hackneyed sayings or whatever, but North Carolina has to absolutely put whatever's left in their locker, in their tank, in their gut. And it's got to be on display this evening in Raleigh. If not, you're going to be remembered as one of the greatest what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to consider because there's been a lot of what ifs recently with really good quarterbacks and,
mm-hmm.
Teams just leaving a lot of meat on the bone. If there's a single place to grab that sort of momentum or grab that edge early in the game, what is it?
I would say making CJ Bailey uncomfortable. I think we've proved that we can really get after the passer. And I think that when he's under pressure, he's not the same quarterback as he is with a clean pocket. Nobody is. So I think if we're able to get after him, put him in some bad situations, force some errant throws or get some good hits on him, maybe have him cough up the ball, I think that's our main opportunity to really have some of those game-changing plays that we were talking about. No, they don't all have to be touchdowns with nice. If we can score on defense, that would be absolutely ideal. But get the ball into our offense's hands as much as we can to try to get them in the rhythm. Because let's be honest, I'm not expecting them to come out lights on fire, gangbusters, but beyond the first drive, which is what we've seen consistently from them this year. But if we can get them, they can go down and they can score, and we can get them the ball back rather quickly. I think that's the biggest opportunity to really gain the upper hand early tonight.
Yeah, it's crazy. The defense played, or they held Darian Mensah in relatively check last week. My words are terrible right now, but they just couldn't get off the field when they needed to. And I think you're going to have that opportunity with CJ Bailey. He's not a great quarterback, but he's got weapons around him. And that's, if one of those plays breaks down, or if you have that bust, then all of a sudden they've got momentum and they've got the crowd on their side.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that a coach in the past has ever made you play angry? Because I think so think about it. A lot of players either have that or don't, right? Like Melkart Abajade, I think, is one of those guys that he's just a motor. Like there's no high, there's no low. He's just a motor. He's going, he doesn't wear it on his sleeves. Some players you can actually coerce into playing angry. And sometimes you can actually give them maybe another level of that anger. Ever have a coach do that to you?
Oh, yeah. Paul Hilton Davis, better known as Butch. Did that to me my senior year. We played UVA.
You talk about your mama?
No, he would never. He's a great man. He's a great man. No. So we were playing UVA. So that previous year, being a Virginia kid, and a lot of my great friends played at UVA. So they beat us in overtime. But there was a picture of this student coming up to me, basically giving me the bird while I'm kneeled down and just discussed from losing the game.
And that student is living?
That student is living. As a matter of fact, the Richmond Times paper put that on the front page of the sports. So when we play UVA the next time, I'm sitting on the captain's row in our team meeting. Coach Davis just comes and slaps that in my lap.
Oh,
And
you probably forgot about it.
I had forgotten about it. I had pushed that to the back of my mind, but I would say that's the most restless night I've ever had. I mean, I found myself, but I mean, I'm not joking, found myself out in the parking lot.
Just walking down the street, kicking pit bulls. Just mad.
Just kicking pit bulls, just choking out coyotes, just doing what I need to do to get that adrenaline calmed down so I can sleep. But I mean, it is absolutely effective tool. And it's one of those things where I was always one of those guys that I played relatively even keel. The only other time was against NC State my senior year, where I had heard there had been some not so nice things said to my family who was attending the game. And I used to wear these wristbands to go out and try to look nice. I took those off and put on some heavy duty wristbands because that was one of those games where I was going out and I was trying to hurt people. I actually had a good game, didn't get any crazy penalties, but I'll be honest with you, if that was a Ron Cherry game and he was watching like he always does, I probably would have had a couple of 15 yards.
Illegal use of a wristband, 15 yards from spot of the foul, 4th down.
He was giving him the business.
He was giving him the business. All right, look, we appreciate everybody who's joined us so far. First segment down. We'll be right back. I talked a second ago about, what's left in the tank. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit after we get back from this break. We'll talk about what Carolina still has to work with and where this team realistically might be able to fight back. We've got EJ Wilson here. AJ's on the 1s and 2s over there under a tryptophan coma. Jason Staples will join us at the bottom of the first hour. We'll talk a little bit of tape review with him. This is going to be a fun show. If you're already here, we're glad you're here. Tell your people, tell them to get on in here and join us. But we'll be right back. You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
Hey, it's Trey Boston, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
When you choose Pirelli, you're not just buying tires. You're investing in Italian engineering built for precision, performance, and safety. And now Chapel Hill Tire will install your set of Pirelli tires for free. That's expert installation, no extra charge. Drive with confidence, knowing your car is equipped with the tires trusted by luxury and performance drivers around the world. Chapel Hill Tire, where premium tires come with premium care. Stop by your nearest Chapel Hill Tire or visit chapelhilltire.com and drive happy, Chapel Hill.
Play. Daily specials on food and drinks, local spirits with a Chapel Hill twist. A space for everyone, students, alumni, locals, and visitors. Enjoy more than good food and good drinks. Create memories from last-minute victories to late-night laughs, where the community comes together and where every day feels like game day. Come for the food, stay for the energy, and leave as part of the Rams Corner family. 431 West Franklin Street.
Dana Wicker Cantrell uses compassionate real estate with Caldwell Banker, Howard Perry, and Walston.
Where I find people get the most emotional about selling their homes is when they have to get rid of furniture that's been in their family. And I advise them, all the people that have ever downsized with me, none of them have come back and been upset. We're talking later and they say this was the best thing I've ever done. There's a bit of a release when we can let go of these things.
For more information, go to danacantrellrealty.com.
Hey, Tar Heel parents, Adam Bishop, senior pastor at New Hope Church, and we've recently updated and renovated our entire children's ministry space with your baby, preschooler, and elementary student in mind. We would love for them to get to experience these new fun environments where they'll grow in their faith and make some new friends this Sunday. Services are available at both 9 and 11 a.m. Check out newhopechurch.org for more information. We can't wait to see you this Sunday, and God bless our Tar Heels.
For over 2 decades, there's been no better place online for the Tar Heel sports community than Inside Carolina. Now with the On3 network, you can still find us at InsideCarolina.com, but you will need to reactivate your subscription, and you can do so today for $1. Access in-depth daily content by joining the best community for Tar Heel sports around. The Tar Heels are your hometown team, and Inside Carolina is your hometown site for Tar Heel sports.
Hello, Tar Heel fans. I'm Robbie Oakes, Managing Director of CIMG Residential Mortgage and the Robbie Oakes Mortgage Team.
As a Chapel Hill native and a UNC grad, I am proud to lead Chapel Hill and Durham's #1 mortgage lending team, so we can help you buy or refinance here locally or anywhere from the mountains to the coast. Find out how today. Visit CIMGINC.com for details. CIMG, lending on a first-name basis. Go Heels.
NMLS number 39460.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Inside Carolina Live. I'm Joey Powell. He's EJ Wilson. You might know him as Ethan Javarius and Ethan Wilson, but I just call him EJ just because who got time for all those syllables?
Nobody does.
Not
Nobody
a single
got time
person
for
here
that.
anyway. So I want to talk about what's left in the tank. And when I was kind of mapping out the show today, you're thinking about, we didn't know what this squad had coming into the year. And now I think the question is more of what's left with what they had. It's crazy. I think they're fairly healthy with an exception of the guys they've lost on the offensive line. Like they've got a decent amount of their skill position players still healthy. They just got Thad Dixon back last week, and he was trying to get up to speed. I mean, you're probably happier with this group than you have been at any other point in the year with who you're trotting out against your opponent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I feel like they've probably at least got some guys. Last week, the offense decided to score more than 20 points, which was, I was borderline pantsless at one point. But when you see this offense finally starting to move the ball a little bit, that might give you a little bit of hope this week. I'm going to ask you, what's the one thing you think they might be able to hang their hat on? We're past the point of trying to figure out what the identity is, but what's the one thing they might be able to hang their hat on this week? And you can go back to the defensive line if you'd like to, but I'm just curious, where might there be some places that we're just different than NC State and we have an advantage here? What is that?
I can't see where we can necessarily have an advantage, but I do think the one thing where we could really come out and not only give ourselves some self-confidence is having some successful offensive drives past what's scripted. Let's show that we can innovate a little bit. And I think, honestly, we're at the point of the season where we really don't have anything else to lose. Let's open the playbook up. Let's run some fun plays. Let's run some trick plays. Let's try to catch the defense off guard. Because other than, which is kind of odd saying this in a UNC and NC State battle over the last few years, I definitely think we have the advantage, at least on the defensive line, compared to some of the players that they have on their defensive line. But I do think there will be an opportunity maybe for our offensive line to have a bounce back game, or just kind of really have a game where they look completely competent for 4 quarters. So if we can get that back, get those guys some momentum, get those guys some confidence early, I think we'll be off to a good start, because this is a very beatable team. It's a winnable game. It's going to be a very hostile environment. And I think not only will that give them confidence, but it'll take the crowd out of it a little bit.
I think a lot of folks, when they hear me say that the roster's fairly healthy, it's hard for people to conceptualize the aches and pains that guys play with at this point in the season, especially in North Carolina. Now it gets colder, so those aches and those pains hurt a little worse. Tell folks what the difference is in playing hurt and playing injured, because I think there's probably a lot of guys that are hurt right now. There might even be some guys playing injured, but help folks understand what the difference of those two are.
I would say for me, the best view I've really had of seeing someone play injured was Hakeem Nicks against South Carolina back in 2007. I mean, that guy hadn't really practiced any leading up to that game, and just got a cortisone shot, went out there and had a great game. That's playing injured, but it really takes a special person to play through an injury. I think we all play hurt, and that's even from the beginning of the season, because nobody's going to leave training camp unscathed without some nicks and bruises. Hopefully they won't really be persistent through the season, but it really is about what you're going to be doing in that week before to really prepare your body. So for us, we didn't have that Sunday off after games. We were doing stretches, we were doing yoga, we were doing stuff to stimulate blood flow, to take some of that scar tissue and some of that lactic acid out of our muscles. So on Monday, on our off day, we came in and got a lift, and we're relatively fresh. So I think these guys, they definitely need to be hitting the cold tub, need to be staying in that treatment. For us, one of the biggest penalties you could get, other than like missing class, was missing your training. Like if you miss treatment, you were not playing. You absolutely were not going to be on that field if you miss treatment, because you're only hurting your team by not taking care of yourself. So I think that that's going to be a big difference in a big game plan. But hey, it's a rivalry game. I mean, you find yourself during rivalry week, all of a sudden that shoulder twinge just feels a little bit looser. You feel a little bit limber. That hamstring may not be as tight as it was the week before, but I mean, everybody's playing with pain. And to your point, I do think that we are relatively healthy. We haven't had as many of the big devastating injuries that are taking some of our key players out for the year like we've seen in years past.
You got any experience you have any experience with seeing one of your teammates come out and maybe inspire you because of what they were playing through? You mentioned Hakeem. You had anybody else that was really kind of dragging something around and that was enough to get you, or maybe you saw a teammate really get amped up because of what they were battling?
Marvin Austin, that game, his freshman year, South Florida, I think was really his coming out party. Marvin decided that, hey, I'm the number one player in the country. I'm going to go in and I'm going to lift with the big boys this summer, and ended up damaging his back. So that first game, he had really been having a lot of trouble that season, and to see what he was at the time, a kid, 18-year-old kid, pushed through that. He went to treatment. He made sure that he was in everywhere he needed to be. And the guy played his heart out and cried, was like in tears after the game, like, because he had just gone out there and really put in the work. And I honestly think that's what changed it for our defense when we saw a guy that was that young and that committed, which is why during some of our earlier conversations this season, we talked about what was it like when Coach Davis's guys came in and how do we meld as a team. Those guys were just different breeds. They were there to play ball. They believed in Coach Davis and they were coming there to work. So seeing him do that just absolutely inspired me to play through some things that I probably wasn't able to play through before that.
I'm sitting here looking at what NC State's done this season, and in their 6 wins, I'll run through these really quickly. They beat East Carolina early in the season, 24-17, and that was probably the game where they looked the most complete on offense. They ran the ball well. They didn't turn it over very much. They had a really good first half, and then East Carolina could not figure out a way to come back in that game. And East Carolina's turned out to be a very decent team. They beat Virginia, which was Virginia's only loss, not a conference loss, but their offense was really good under pressure, and it really was kind of a back and forth game. But again, their defense did enough at the end to kind of hang on. They beat Wake Forest 34-24. They showed a decent amount of composure with moving the ball. They held on to their lead. And again, they showed how they can bow up in a hostile environment. They bludgeoned Campbell. They beat Georgia Tech, which is the weird one. That was the game where Georgia Tech had started really kind of reeling off some good wins and looked good. Haynes King was in somewhat of a rhythm. And NC State was just really aggressive offensively in that game. They put up a ton of points, and Georgia Tech was just not comfortable playing from behind or matching that. And that was a game where I think you started to see what they could do from a big play standpoint. And then their last game, they beat Florida State, which that was probably the most defensive effort that they've showed, but it was also just completely wrought with Florida State, giving the game away. I think Florida State's defense showed enough in the second half to win that, but they just couldn't get out of their own way a lot. So, I mean, what you've seen from NC State in the games where they've looked the best is when their offense has been clicking. Hollywood Smothers, and then Bailey being able to find some guys in the pass game. I'd like to think that North Carolina can somewhat hang with that. I think your point about getting some pressure in Bailey's face and making him uncomfortable is probably part of it. I'd love to see them maintain some drives because NC State's defense is somewhat of a weakness. They have struggled defensively all year. Like I mentioned earlier, they've given up a ton of points to both good and mediocre offenses. They gave up 1 million points to Miami, and I think Miami's probably one of the better offenses in the conference, but they're so inconsistent. And so even if you think of this game tonight as being fairly even, they go in tonight and NC State has the fans on their back. NC State has the home field advantage. They've got the very stewed crowd. So it's, again, North Carolina can't just be equal with them. They've got to find some things that they can flex on. Are there any adjustments you think North Carolina could make in the game plan to be able to find and exploit some things? I've been saying for months that it's over the middle of the field. You've seen that some, but you ain't seen it a lot. Where do you feel like North Carolina might be able to make some adjustments?
I think that we need to, as we've been kind of saying all season, I think getting Gio on the move, getting him a little bit more comfortable in the pocket, I think that'll help us a little bit to try to get the ball out to Ship and to Pace Horn, some of these guys who've really been not having great seasons, but they've been relatively consistent for us out there. And I think that we need to find something, some sort of success in the running game. Not saying that we need to go out here and gash these guys, but we need to prove that we can go out here and get 4 to 5 yards, because that's just going to set up everything else. And I think, to your point, it's going to set up the middle of the field, because those linebackers are going to have no choice but to come up and respect that run if we're having some success with it. And then we can find Jordan Shipp, Kobe Pace-Orr, some tight ends over the middle to try to make some plays. I do think that we have some guys that can make some plays with the ball in their hands, but it's just about getting to them and the opportunity on time and give them some space where they can let their athleticism shine.
I've bemoaned the play calling most of the season, and I think anybody who's watched this team probably has done so. I blame the adults more than I do the players for not being able to execute. And I do recognize that the coaches can't execute for them, but I still go back to the fact that North Carolina has not really put their players in the best chance to succeed, at least from an offensive standpoint. This week, I'd like to see them do something to give the offensive line some help. That offensive line has not been great. They have absolutely had people in Gio's face all the time. The same way we're talking about North Carolina getting pressure on CJ Bailey. There's got to be something they can do to give some help. And if I see them go empty one more time, I might actually lose my mind, dude. I need to see them, whether it's chipping, whether it's sliding protection, whether it's moving the pocket, I don't know, but do something to give your quarterback a chance, because the offensive line has been a bit of a struggle of comedy, or a comedy of struggle the last few weeks.
I mean, I don't know really what we can do creatively. We talked in weeks past about some of the running backs and their pass blocking ability. I think that we do need to get them involved a little bit more. And if we're not going to throw the ball to the tight ends and try to find them, then have them be, I mean, we don't have to always have them on the line. Have them set as an off back to where they can get a little bit more protection and get some of those guys who may squeak through with that offensive line. But like, to your point, like, it is the adults in the room. If you see your children struggling with something, you're not going to say, oh, they can handle it on their own. You need to go and help them. You need to give them some guidance. You need to put them in a position to succeed. And I just don't see over these past games where we've really done anything to change that. And I can only go based on what I've seen. I don't see them doing a lot of that, but I really, really would like to see that happen, because we still don't know what this offense would look like if we are out there executing, because it's either we got guys in the backfield contacting the running back once he gets the ball. Gio's not able to go out there and set himself in the pocket and make some of those throws. So, and I think that's a lot of the time why he's holding on the ball so much. He's like, hey, I actually got some time and can make some decisions. Let me try to make a play. So if we can't get any help with that offensive line, this is going to be a very long game in Raleigh tonight.
How can North Carolina play with the mindset that maybe they flushed everything else and they can play a little bit from a standpoint of being angry but not being broken? You know, can you really flush the past 11 games and just worry about tonight? Is that something that you think this team might be able to pull off?
I think that it's something that you can do, but I honestly don't think that this is going to be the team to pull it off. I mean, I feel like there's not enough history of success with this group. When you have guys who've been together for at least a season or two and they've had some success, it's easy to fall back on that and say, hey, let's flush this. Let's rely on this team when we were at this certain point. Well, this team, this is all that they know. This season that they put together, some of the blowout losses, some of the ineptitude that they've had on offense, some of the giving up so many big plays on defense, this is what they know. So it's going to be a little bit tougher for this group to really put those things behind them. I just hope that they can find something, some common thread, whether it's finishing strong, whether it's the younger guys and the guys who are looking to transfer, trying to put something on tape, whatever it takes to really to win this game and just see something out of this team. But I would hope that they could flush it, but I just don't see where this team really has the basis to do that.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed something changes tonight. When we come back, Jason Staples will join us for his segment of the show. We'll break down some film. We'll talk a little bit of fundamentals and maybe decide, is there a realistic path to a win tonight? He's EJ Wilson. I'm Joey Powell. This is Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
This is George Lynch, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live at 97.9 The Hill.
Rally House, shop every team in town, college and pro, come on, it's time to go.
The season starts at Rally House. From jerseys and hats to tumblers for game day, it's where outrageous selection meets every fan's style.
Carolina Pride, we bring the heat from the Dean Dome floor to Franklin Street. Rally House, Rally House. It's your city, it's your house, it's the Rally House.
Level up your fandom in-store or online at rallyhouse.com.
Johnson Building. The synergy that we get in delivering everything that we do under one roof. So design in a vacuum is sort of useless, but when you have design, construction, interiors, the budgeting, and you get that highly collaborative, interactive experience within our company and then with the client as well, that typically results in projects that are timely and on budget.
Go to willjohnsonbuildingcompany.com and see for yourself.
This holiday season, give the gift that sparkles right here at Olmos Jewelers. After a brief move, we're happily back home in the Eastgate Shopping Center.
You'll find gorgeous diamond engagement rings, timeless fashion pieces, expert in-house repair, and custom design, all from our family-owned boutique, where every detail matters.
So whether you're saying yes for the first time, celebrating milestones, or simply giving gifts that bring smiles, come explore Olmos Jewelers. Warm service and the sparkle to make this holiday unforgettable.
Olmos Jewelers, Eastgate Crossing, back where we belong, shining brighter than ever. Visit us today.
I'm Jeremy Salemson with CIMG Residential Mortgage. At CIMG, we are so proud to be your local mortgage experts. At CIMG, we loan our own money, approve loans locally, and stay connected with our customers throughout the process. In short, we humanize the lending experience. Learn more at CIMGINC.com. CIMG, lending on a first-name basis. NMLS number 39460.
Inside Carolina, the place for Tar Heel sports, discussion, analysis, and breaking news, has moved to a new home, the On3 Network, offering the same great coverage of Carolina sports with exclusive recruiting information, in-depth team analysis, and insightful podcasts. You can still find us at InsideCarolina.com, but you will need to reactivate your subscription as they don't transfer to our new home. You can do so today for $1. Make your game day begin and end with InsideCarolina.com.
Hey Tar Heels, Adam Bishop here, senior pastor at New Hope Church in Durham and a big Carolina fan. Whether you're celebrating a win or down at halftime, you'll find hope, community, and a place to belong at New Hope. For over 20 years, we've been a diverse faith family where people build lasting friendships and make a difference together. There's a seat waiting for you. Visit newhopechurch.org. We can't wait to meet you, and God bless our Tar Heels.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
There must be some kind of way out of here. Is there some kind of way out of here?
We'll see. We'll see.
Man, I would hope there's some sort of way out of Carter Finley tonight with a win for the team in white, but
that would be absolutely amazing. It'd be the first time in a while, but it'd be great.
Man, speaking of great, why don't we bring in Jason Staples here for a little bit?
I am the smartest man alive.
Doc, I hope that you've enjoyed your turducken and that you are still at least with us in the physical and mental realm, if not in the spiritual realm.
Yeah, I do wonder about that clip that you play at the beginning there. I wonder about the laughter at the end of that, huh? So
that's AJ. That's AJ. That's not actually in the clip. That's just AJ laughing.
Yep. So anyway, yeah, good to be back on with you all. Hope you all had a good and gluttonous Thanksgiving.
Yeah, man. I ate enough to have Sally Struthers come to my house and collect more money to continue to feed me. But listen, this game tonight, dude. We've talked about it for the better part of an hour so far, and when you can pair out all of the rivalry stuff and all the non-execution based things, I want to ask you, NC State, when they've won ball games, has had a really dynamic looking offense. What makes them dangerous, especially at Carter Finley?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that when they can run the football and they're able to set it up so that they're able to throw when they want to, and CJ Bailey doesn't have a lot of pressure on him. He's a very, very good thrower of the football when he's not pressured. And, that makes them very dangerous. And they've got some outside. They've got playmakers at running back. They've got a pretty dang good playmaker in Jolie at tight end. And, yeah, I think it's a combination of all those things. And then when they're playing at home and they don't have to deal with the with the noise, with the sorts of things that you get on the road, additional pressure as defensive line usually gets a little bit more of a jump on when you're playing on the road because of the noise and because you can't do as much in terms of varying the count and all that. I think that makes it very tough to stop them because of their some of the playmakers that they have. I mean, they don't have a Casey Concepcion this year, but they've got a few guys in Smothers and Jolie and others who can really go.
When you think about how North Carolina might be able to disrupt him a little bit and make him uncomfortable, what does that look like for UNC defensively tonight?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is you've got to stop the run first. So what that means is handling the NC State offensive line with your front four and making space for your linebackers to make plays. And if you can get them into 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, and or more, then you're going to be able to turn those edge guys loose. And that's where, we've seen second half of the season, especially as Thompson and especially Abu Jaude have really found their stride on the edge. Those guys will start to be able to create some pressure from the edge. And you're also going to get some occasional fire zones and things like that where you'll get Simpson or Bayer, or sometimes you'll get, somebody else coming on a blitz, but they'll 5-man it. They'll do some things like that. But to me, really, it boils down to getting into good enough leverage situations where you can turn those edges loose and you can get Thompson on the field more on those longer yardage things, and then let those edges eat. And I don't think State's offensive tackles are special in terms of pass blocking. So if you can get those one-on-ones in passing situations, I think you're going to be able to create pressure. But it really does start with that. If they can't stop the run on 1st down, 2nd down, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult all night in Raleigh.
Jason, you made some great points about some of the pass rush ability that we have on the outside, but what are some other matchups that UNC must win if we want to stay competitive and have a chance to win this game tonight?
Well, I mean, I think one other one that really stands out to me on the defensive side is at the tight end position. They have really benefited from having a top flight tight end, a guy who's a good blocker. He's big body, but he is a dynamic player in the passing game. And so that's where Kamori House, Andrew Simpson in particular, those guys are going to have to dominate their matchup there. They're going to have to win that matchup because that's a guy that CJ Bailey likes to throw over the middle. He likes to be able to push the ball down the field between the hashes. And Jolie has been a guy who, in the games where they've beaten quality teams, he's been a guy who has had a lot of success doing that. So I think they need to win that matchup. I think they also, if we're going to flip to the other side of the ball, they're going to need to find ways to run the football on a team that has not been very good stopping the run against any offense with a pulse, but they've been pretty good against bad offenses. So, they're kind of average defensively. And if you can find ways to run it on them, all of a sudden, I think you're going to get some one-on-ones and Jordan Ship and a couple of those other guys are going to have some opportunities, but you've got to find ways to run the football for, 4+ yards per carry in this game, or you're simply not going to win the game. It's pretty simple. It's as simple as that.
I feel like when, at least looking at some of the film when NC State this year, they've been better when the run game and play action is working too, but they also do a good job of kind of doing that middle tempo, right? They're not in a hurry, but they're not, kind of plodding. I feel like that's something North Carolina could use a little more of tonight. Do you think they have the horses, or do you think they're programmed to be able to pull that off?
I think they can. The question really comes down to playing complementary football and how your defense is playing and how you feel about taking those opportunities when you got them versus slowing the game down and being in a position to make it easier for yourself. I think that's the big thing. You have to consider, okay, is this a game where it's okay for us to be in a track meet, or is this a game where we've got to absolutely minimize the number of possessions? I think these two teams are evenly enough balanced in terms of talent. I do think NC State's the better team between the two, but I think that the gap is not so large that you're just trying to shorten the game to keep it close. So I do think that that's something that you can use in this game. You just have to use it judiciously. And I would actually even go fast a few times if you get a first down and you feel like you've got the right personnel balance or whatever. Definitely use some tempo variation, because I think that, especially in this game where you haven't shown a ton of that this year, can potentially give you an edge on 2 or 3 plays. And this is a game that could well come down to, 2 or 3 plays.
You talked about running the ball. Can North Carolina scheme a run game against them? Because I feel like they're fairly vulnerable up front. Is there a way North Carolina can establish a run game, even if it's, passing type runs, if that makes sense, like shorter type stuff that's forcing their front seven to be around the point of attack a lot more?
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, again, if you look at the year for NC State, I mean, they gave up 7 yards per carry to one opponent a couple weeks ago. I think it was Georgia Tech. They gave up over 6 yards a carry to Virginia. I mean, they've given up rushing yards. They gave up over 5 yards a carry to Florida State, even though they beat them and held them to 11 points. This is a defense that has given up rushing yards. You can get rushing yards on them if you are patient and if you handle your business up front. But the key there is exactly that second part that I said. You've got to handle your business up front, and you got to have your backs, breaks, and tackles too. And that's something that Carolina has not done a very good job of this season. We'll see how they do, but I do think you can scheme it up. I do think that there's some opportunities if you can use some. This is one of those games where look at the teams that have had success running against them.
Mm-hmm.
They're all teams that like to stretch the field.
I think we're losing you, Jason. I think you just got eaten by the cyborg. I could hear you.
Now?
There you go. You're good.
There we go. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happens sometimes with that, but I do think if you are in a position where you stretch the field horizontally a little bit with some jet sweeps, with some smoke screens and things like that to try to force them to have to run sideways, I do think you can scheme some stuff up on the interior where they've not been super strong. You just have to keep them from being able to stack the box against you. And I think in a lot of ways, the plan that you've got this week has to look a lot like the plan that you brought against Duke last week. And they had success moving the ball against Duke. And I don't think Duke is a whole lot better defensively than this NC State team. And so, I mean, it's possible they can score mid-20s, maybe even 30 points against this NC State team, but they have to actually execute and finish drives consistently. And we haven't seen that all year.
I think, and I agree with you, Jason, consistency is always going to be key no matter what we're talking about. So I'm going to ask you to pull out your crystal ball really quickly. What's your key stat? What's the one number that you feel will predict the outcome of this game?
Well, I mean, obvious turnovers is going to be, you're always going to pull out. Take turnovers off the table as the most obvious thing. If this game is even in turnovers, then to me it's the rushing yards per game or rushing yards per number on each side of the ball. The team that runs the ball for more yards per carry is almost certainly going to win this football game. And this is actually in a lot of ways this is old school football. I mean, for those of us who kind of wish that football looked a little bit like it used to be, this is one of those games where it might look a little bit more like it used to be, because these two teams, the way that it's going to work, I think the team that runs the ball more efficiently is going to win this game. It's a rivalry game. You got to be physical. You got to win between the tackles. And I think the team that's able to do that is going to win the game.
Man, it's going to be fascinating. I mean, if nothing else, there's always some sort of intrigue, even with these two teams. If you feel like it's going to be a pillow fight, there's still some sort of intrigue that happens over the course of the game. I'm sitting here thinking about the Duke game last week when North Carolina finally started having a little bit of success offensively. You mentioned that there's not a ton of difference between NC State and Duke defensively. What are the ways North Carolina can continue to move the ball and maybe scheme up some chunk plays or maybe hit on some chunk plays based on a bust? What do you think those look like tonight? What plays are most likely going to be where they're able to hit?
Well, I mean, I think this is one of those games where if you can get some sort of flea flicker in a good yardage situation, I think you've got some opportunities there. I really like some follow type concepts against what they run. They run some zone stuff. where if you can flood it and you can run some follow concepts. So basically what that is you're going to run, say, a bunch formation, and you're going to have one player run like a shallow cross or something like that. And you're going to have the other player who might normally go to the flat in that particular concept. But instead of going to the flat, he runs a Texas route where he's going to follow that shallow and run through the same zone that was already vacated by somebody else. I think you're going to have some opportunities with that kind of thing. Or another one would be you have a vertical route followed by a wheel route. I think you can hit that wheel route trailing the vertical route with the way that they like to play defense. That's the sort of thing that I bring in here. One other one is I love the tight end leak play in this kind of game. You're going to get a very aggressive defense coming downhill, trying to stop the run. Find a way to get that where, you know, you're going hard play action and the tight end is blocking for that 1-2 count and then leaks across the formation and you throw it on that little shallow to him after the whole defense drops. That's the sort of thing where suddenly you're getting a tight end running up the sideline with nobody around him, getting a 30 or 40 yard gain. That's the kind of thing that I would be trying to pull out in this game. And I think there's going to be some opportunities for that. If you can protect long enough, if you can set it up with enough success in the running game. And those are big ifs, but I do think there's going to be some opportunities for that sort of thing in this game.
I feel like NC State's scheme tends to kind of favor inside strength. And then if you can start getting sideline to sideline on them, it makes them a little bit vulnerable. Does North Carolina have a player or players to exploit that?
I don't know. that's the short answer. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of it this year. I mean, and you're right, because NC State tends to go with a lot of odd fronts on the defensive line. That's where you start to see like your old single wing influenced pin and pulls, your down play, things like that, where you're pulling your tackle and blocking down with your tight end or you know, maybe a point man on a bunch or something like that. I do think there's going to be opportunities for, you know, off C gap, D gap type runs in this game. The guy to me that I would be trying to get those to is Davion Goss. The other guy, though, honestly, is run Gio Lopez on some of that stuff. Run him on some running back lead. You know, put Benjamin Hall out there at a 230-pound lead blocker, and run, you know, quarterback down or quarterback outside zone G, where you're getting the pin and pull and you're getting that tackle out on the edge and you're blocking down on the end man on the line of scrimmage, and you're going to have some opportunities. You might only get 4, 5, 6 yards on it before your quarterback gets hit, but you just tell him, look, take what's there, protect yourself, and 2nd and 4 is great. And you're going to have some opportunities for that on the edge. And I think you've got to find ways, again, to use that kind of scheme to try to mash them down on the inside and then win with your guys on the edge of the box.
It's crazy. We were talking about, you know, the Texas versus A&M game last night, and I was telling EJ, Arch Manning, I think, settled in and realized that, you know, whenever they would run sets, that once he could see a linebacker's back, he started taking off, even on plays that weren't called draws. And I think that was really what got their offense going. I'd love to see some of that out of Gio Lopez. I don't know if he's got shackles on him, or if that's something he's even got the capability of diagnosing himself. But I'm with you. I think there's probably going to be some opportunity for that tonight if North Carolina chooses to use it. All right. I think we may have lost Jason again. I didn't actually ask a question there, so maybe he was just kind of giving me a middle finger for just saying things instead of asking an actual question. But appreciate you making time for us, Doc. Hope that you're well. Hope that you do not get sucked into the great abyss. But thanks for making time for us. We will talk to you very, very soon. And of course, folks can look to hear from you tomorrow on the day after with Tommy and Buck.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to be right back. That's Jason Staples. The film never lies. But we're going to come back and talk about what this game really means, talk about some hard identity, some psychology, and maybe Earl will even tell us some of the dirty little stories he's got from games against NC State and other rivals. We'll be right back on Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
I'm Landon Turner, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill.
It's time for the Chapel Hill Tire Drive Happy, Drive of the Game. In another epic UNC Duke football game, the Heels rallied from 14 points down in the second half to take a lead in the fourth quarter, thanks to their longest drive of the year. A 9-play, 91-yard drive that was capped off by an explosive 12-yard touchdown run by Davion Goss.
Tar Heels 1st and 10 at the Duke 12. Not a goal-to-go situation yet.
Hand off to Goff. Goff, 10-5. Carolina's tied it up at 24. Davion Goff for 6. 91 yards in 9 plays. And now the PAT is good. Now Carolina leads it 25-24.
That was this week's Chapel Hill Tire Drive Happy Drive of the Game. Save $50 when you spend $150 or more on automotive services during football season at any of Chapel Hill Tire's 12 area locations. Use promo code DOTG25 when you schedule your appointment and drive happy, Tar Heels.
Of the Triangle. We are the #1 Generac residential installer in North America. I really stress with the customers that we are looking to be their generator partner for the next 10, 15, 20 years for their ownership of having a generator. We want to make sure they can rely on us that that generator is ready to run and on go when they need it. Go to GeneratorSuperCenterOfTheTriangle.com. That's GeneratorSuperCenterOfTheTriangle.com.
Rams Corner is the hottest place to catch the heels, NFL, NBA, and international soccer on the biggest TVs in town. Enjoy an affordable menu with starters, soups and salads, seafood, veggie dishes, tacos, and burgers, hot off the grill. All freshly made from $7 to $21. Nothing matches it. Dine and drink on the front patio, the longest bar in town, or a party table for up to 12. Rams Corner is at 431 West Franklin. On the corner, make it your place for food, fun, and games.
Will you stifle yourself and listen to old Uncle Archie? Only a dingbat would manage his own money there. You'll flush it down your toilet, then some meathead wants to marry your little Goyle, and you ain't got the money to pay for the wedding. So don't kill your chickens before they cross the road there, huh? Call John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management there.
Listen up, you meathead. Archie Bunker isn't real and wasn't compensated for this. But Carolina Wealth Stewards, doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management, is a real registered investment advisor in the state of North Carolina.
Rally House, shop every team in town. College and pro, come on, it's time to go.
The season starts at Rally House. From jerseys and hats to tumblers for game day, it's where outrageous selection meets every fan style.
Carolina Pride, we bring the heat from the Dean Dome floor to Franklin Street. Rally House, Rally House. It's your city, it's your house, it's a Rally House.
Level up your fandom in-store or online at rallyhouse.com.
Hi, it's Jones Angel, voice of the Tar Heels, and you're listening to your flagship station for Tar Heel sports, 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, Chapel Hill.
Are you working? What kind of work do you do?
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Little Gangstar, R.I.P. Guru. Man, some good work there on the bump music, AJ. Inside Carolina Live, Hour 2, last show of the year. I want to take a second and just tell how much I appreciate you guys being a part of this here audience, and glad that we are part of your pregame situation. Whatever you're doing, we're glad to be there, even if we're only there virtually. And go ahead and tell you during the breaks, EJ does a couple of liquor luges and keg stands just in honor of all of those pregame parties that you guys are having. But I appreciate y'all making time for us. It's a lot more fun doing the show with you guys around and knowing that we've got some diehards that are working us in. Thinking about this game again, we've talked about kind of the intangible stuff. Explain to us why rivalry games aren't about talent and they're more about identity. You framed it incredibly well earlier when you talked about this whole NC State, hand in the dirt type mentality that they've, whether they are or not, they think they are. Mm-hmm. And it's working for them.
Yeah.
Help us explain, what would that look like for North Carolina tonight? What's North Carolina's identity in a season where they've really struggled to find one? And why does that matter in a game where, like Staples said, maybe the talent's pretty even?
I think the identity tonight that we really need to establish, and I think that can be identity moving forward, is just really having each other's backs. And when I say that, I don't mean anything like if a guy is getting into a shoving match, you coming up behind them, but celebrate your teammates. If you see your teammates messed up, go help him, go pick his head up. If you see a guy made a big play, go celebrate with them. Like, let's get some mojo flowing. Let's get some juice flowing out there, because as if you just said, State has kind of fashioned themselves and marketed themselves, which is some great PR, by the way, for a football program, that as they're the toughest team. I would, to quote Michael Jordan, I would take that personally. I would take that very personally. I think that there's no, like, you don't need bulletin board material. If you're a football player in the state, you don't need any more bulletin board material than Dorn saying that we are the toughest program in North Carolina. Like, I don't think that nothing else could be said to me as a football player that would make me more hot and heated, especially with someone who's right down the road from us. So we need to go out there and let's be honest, we need to come out with our hair on fire, and we need to hit them in the mouth. Like, we need to come out here, and if we can, run the ball 3 straight times and get a first down. That's a good way to take the crowd out of and suck the air out of the stadium. But if we're out there and we're actually playing for each other, I mean, like you said, like you asked the question earlier, would they be able to flush this? I think that they need to say, hey, this truly may be our last time together, and we need to leave an impression. If I can say I've done nothing else at the University of North Carolina, I've helped change the tradition of us constantly losing to our rivals. And culture change doesn't have to happen in leaps and bounds or something that's happened suddenly, but I bet you this, beating your rival in the last game of the season of a very, very tough year where you were nowhere near what you were expected to do, that makes those 6 a.m. workouts a little easier.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I think it's funny, and I hope that this staff has reminded them, because there are still some guys that carried over from last year when Dave Dorn actually referred to North Carolina's players as pieces of shit.
Yeah.
That was actually a real thing that he said.
Yes, it was.
And it was on video, and people heard that. So I don't know what this staff's MO for motivation is, but I would like to think that they've probably at least remembered that and recycled that. And if it wasn't last year, if it was 3 years ago, forgive me. But I do remember that was something that a head coach said about another team with a microphone around.
Classy guy.
When you're thinking about how do you, I'm sorry, AJ's making symbols over here, and I'm trying to decide if he's okay. That's not a safe for television hand motion that AJ just made there. When you're thinking about translating locker room performance to on the field, is there something that North Carolina can do to manufacture that hatred in guys that just got here, right? Like Simpson's a perfect example of that. When he's playing well, he's absolutely applying the lumber. Kamori House is another one. Guys weren't here for any of this before. And again, this isn't an NC State team there's nothing remarkable about either one of these squads, other than, UNC making that big splash hire and hiring Belichick. So I would ask you, like, what's the transition or what's the way that you bring rivalry week to a guy that's played college football before, but probably doesn't understand this one?
I think that you really got to sit down, and that needs to be one of those weeks. So you really got to kind of explain the history of it, and you don't have to go too far. You can look at what happened last year. Like, first of all, we have a school of engineering students who tried to plant a flag on a turf field. So I think that was great. That's been my shining moment from last year.
It's not the greatest decision. I mean, shout out on the win.
Yeah,
but it's turf, guys.
You're hanging your hat on to being an engineering school, but I digress from that. So, but no, I mean, I honestly think that really, if not now, when needs to be part of the messaging, and that we have to do this for each other. If not for those guys who are transfers, you just had a coaching staff that said they weren't able to get the guys that they really wanted and had to get guys that no one else wanted in the transfer portal. You can go out and you can ball just to spite them. There have been times where I will say personally, I had a coach who I did not necessarily agree with my redshirt freshman year at Carolina. In the end of that season, I started playing well. I started watching more film. I started lifting a little extra weights just to prove that guy, because I knew he was out the door. He was part of the staff that got fired, but I wanted to show him that you're going to get a job in the ACC. You're going to be telling your defensive line group and your offensive line group about me. And I took that very personally. So you just have to you have to be one of those sickos that can manufacture a chip on your shoulder. Michael Jordan was good at that. Metal World Peace is good at that. Like, and then he took it too far sometimes, but those guys who can develop a chip, who are the greatest at what they do, but can still put a chip on their shoulder and said, you know what, I think we can see it on the basketball court. I mean, look at Caleb Wilson. He's one of the best. Every time he plays against someone who was ranked higher, he's number 5, by the way.
He plays like somebody insulted his mama before every play.
Yes, he does. And it's like we need to transfer that. You don't see, and I commented this to my wife, you don't see kids with that caliber of talent and that caliber of fanfare who are still out there diving. Against Kansas, he's on the floor. He's diving for balls. We need to see some of that on the football field.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks I saw making comments about his introduction to the crowd last week before the Duke game, hoping that the football stank didn't wear off on him.
I hope not.
Yeah, that's that kid is one of one for sure. What can North Carolina say about the culture of this locker room if they can build and find a win today? What does it say? Not just for the haters, or what does it say for detractors of the program right now? More importantly, what does it say to folks that have watched this team from afar if they're able to pull themselves together, get up off the mat, and walk out of Carter Finley with a win tonight?
I think it shows a lot. It shows that, hey, we may not have been successful as we wanted to this season, but as we just talked about in the beginning of this segment, this game's about pride. If this team ends up 5-7, but they can still do something, a UNC football team with their number 1 draft picks and their first rounders and their guys that are playing well, something that they have not been able to do. And that's beat since 2019. And that's beat that NC State team. I think that, I mean, even if guys are going to even if guys don't plan on being with the program next year, or if they're graduating, like that's something big. I mean, I know that the year that we did beat NC State, I think we were 3-7 that year, but it did not feel like we were 3-7 going into that off season, because we just beat a team who had kind of been handing it to us. And we know that if we see these guys in the mall, if we see these guys around, they're like, hey, we can throw a little sly grin over there and say that we beat them. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that as a fan base, as a team, as a locker room, they should feel good about winning this game tonight. And I mean, you're going into a very hostile environment. I mean, people talk about Clemson, they talk about all these other SEC schools, but Carter Finley, I hate to give them credit, but it is a very great environment for the home team there. So this is going to say a lot about this team if they're able to pull out this win.
It's weird, man. NC State, they've got a perfect setup over there where they've got just an open, and make your jokes, but they've got a wide open field at the fairgrounds, which lends itself perfectly to tailgating. And that's something that they've done incredibly well. I mean, there's probably some urination comments that people would make about the stands there, but they absolutely have crafted a home field environment. And that's something, if you ask any UNC fan right now, would they take, I'm sure they would look at you, high five you, and say, yes, in spades. They would love to have that. And I can also think of a lot of UNC fans that would rather play checkers on a leopard's ass than go to Carter Finley.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
You and I have done fairly well watching games against NC State, but man, I will say it's quite the atmosphere, and it's a rough one for opposing fans, and that's what you want.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I watched the Ohio State Michigan game today, and I was floored at how many Ohio State fans were in the big house. I mean, I know they have a massive alumni base, and that means there's more people that can afford tickets. But NC State's not going to have a lot of UNC fans there tonight. Even when NC State has below average teams, there's not a ton of UNC fans there. So you kind of, as much as you want to hate them, you do have to tip your cap in what they've created for an advantage for them. And their schedule tonight bears out. The only game they've lost at home this year was to Virginia Tech, who had just fired their coach. And I think maybe they got the little fired coach bounce that you get from emotion there, but they've turned that into a good home field advantage, and North Carolina is going to have to be prepared for that. I can't think of a game that North Carolina's played this year where there was a legitimate road environment that was really strong against them. Maybe the game at Wake Forest, but even then, Wake wasn't full. Now there's a bunch of people in the stadium that hated UNC, but it's not going to be like it is tonight. And I don't know how you prepare a team who's gone through 11 games so far with seeing their most hostile environment in the last game of the year. Were there some things that your coaches used to teach you guys or used to work with you guys? I've heard all the stories about pumping in, crowd noise during practice or whatever, but are there some things on a one-on-one level that coaches have ever told you to try to get your head right for what the opposing environment's going to be like?
Honestly, I will say this. My senior year, our coach tried to come around to each guy individually, and he got to myself and Cam Thomas, and he looked at us and he just patted us on our shoulder pads because we had that look of I'm ready to go out here and I'm ready to Mike Tyson bite an ear off if that's what it's going to take to win this game. And I mean, it really, honestly, you don't need to. I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. I would love an opportunity to go out there and play against these guys again. So this is one of those games, and I'll go on record and saying this: if you need extra motivation to play against the school in Raleigh, if you play for the school in Chapel Hill, something's wrong. The elevator's not reaching all the way up.
There's definitely some kind of built-in stuff, but absolutely, I think if there's any point this season, like we said earlier about the gas in the tank, if there's anything left from this season that guys still want to put on tape. Here's the other thing we haven't talked about. Some of these guys might be looking to transfer themselves.
Yeah.
They're going to want to put good film out there. They don't want to leave in a situation where, the staff might not have great things to say about them. They might not want to go out there and we've seen some bad loafs, and Staples has done a great job of putting these in cut-ups this year, but you don't want to have loafs in the last game of the year, especially when you've got, a rivalry to play for. Like, I think that will speak towards your character. Can you remember guys that maybe you played against that, that this sort of effort or lack of effort situations may have told a coaching staff what you know about him? Did you ever have a guy where you guys were lined up across from him, like, all right, I can outwork this guy because he's going to fold like a cheap suit as soon as he faces any adversity?
Oh yeah. There are a lot of guys. And I honestly, this situation happened, during a bowl game. I won't say against which school it was, but I had some good friends on the other team, and we were out having some adult beverages a few nights before the game, and we were just talking about like how some guys have kind of had great seasons that have been unexpected, and he let it slip that they have no confidence in their tight end and they're going to try to run the ball away from him. So I said, if you guys don't have confidence in them, allow me to go out and whoop them for about 60 minutes up and down the field, and then I'll let Quentin Copels come in, the young boy, and show him a little bit more once I'm a little bit tired of just putting foot to him. And that's exactly what happened all game. And I will say that this may give away what team we were playing, but that's part of the game that got me drafted. Like, when I was meeting with coaches at the combine, we were watching this tape. They were saying it's amazing what you did to this tight end. Then I ended up going to the team where that said tight end was, and he said, "Yeah, you lost me a little money, but I'm glad you did good for yourself." So you accidentally want to identify that guy early and often, and in all seriousness, not just for individual stats, but if we're running defensively, if we're running a pressure, we want to go to that guy's side who's been the weak link. On offense, if you know a defensive lineman doesn't want to hold his block, or a linebacker doesn't want to come up and lay the thump, you run the ball right at him, and you either make him bow up, or you make him sub and get someone else in, which is even better because it's going to be another less experienced guy. So, I mean, I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up.
There's eight other guys on that team, and 9 of them call me sir.
Exactly.
That's one of those just where it's inside of each individual player, and if you can find it inside of the player as an individual, then you can find it inside of the team as a collective. But again, I've never coached a team in this sort of scenario, and definitely not with these sorts of aspirations and this sort of external stuff on it. I want to talk about something that our guy Bart in the chat mentioned, and I have said this a couple of times on previous shows this year, but I think there's something to it. And if you believe in the law of averages, and that water finds its level, and that even a one-legged man can win an ass-kicking contest every so often, this is where North Carolina has got to maybe catch some luck, because there have been so many chances this year that things have just bounced the other way, right? And I know that sounds like loser talk, but I'm just kind of looking at it from an objective standpoint. You would have to think that at some point some things would bounce North Carolina's way. You think about Kobe Paysour losing the ball at the 1 and it being a touchback against Virginia. You think about Leacock going in for the touchdown that would have won the game at Cal and it being poked out. You think about Benjamin Hall getting stopped with what feels like 6 inches from the plane being broken on that go-ahead extra point. There's just been so many little things that I feel like the weird-ass play at Wake Forest that gave them the first touchdown, where a guy gets no carries but picks up and runs 50 yards on offense for a touchdown. There's so much that has gone against this team this year cosmically.
Yeah.
That I feel like at some point that has to shake out. Yes. And if you're keeping score, you got to think some of those would favor the road team tonight. since they haven't had any of those things go for them for most of the year. Because can you remember any bounces that have worked in their favor this year? That any weird stuff that I feel like has helped them? Because I can't think of it.
Nothing significant. I mean, that's the God honest truth. And I hate to be the guy, the what if guy, but if you look at that Cal game, if we scored that touchdown, we're potentially 5-7 right now. Let's take it a step further and not only talk about winning that game against UVA, but the type of momentum it would have been to beat a school that's a pseudo rival that we haven't had a ton of success with against over the last 10, 15 years. And a team that's coming in ranked and really, really a team that we want to be, who's turned their program around from when they were kind of the laughingstock of the ACC for a few years. And people thought they had a legitimate chance to play for a championship this year. So those few things, those small bounces can make a big deal. But no, I can't say where we've had any thing go significantly our way. We may have had, there may have been some small things in a play, like maybe a block that maybe we kind of snipped the guy, but it was enough for the guy for the runner to get past. But
I'm not talking about flags either.
Oh yeah, none of that. We really haven't had anything significant this year go our way. So if we can get all of them tonight, I'd be happy.
Yeah, it's crazy. You talked about that Cal game. You also wonder, how does that change things if they win that Cal game, because they were able to beat Syracuse, they were able to beat Stanford, but I don't know, man. Like it's just it's crazy to see how things might shake out. We've got a guy in the chat right now saying that we're pumping sunshine.
Are we?
How are we pumping sunshine? Is it just because we're not spending 2 full hours screaming about firing all the coaches and executing all the players at the 50-yard line? Is that what sunshine pumping is now?
I guess that is. I mean, I feel like we're being pretty objective and pretty honest right here for two guys who love UNC football, and we could come up here and say a lot of those things, but we're gentlemen as well.
Okay. Hey, you can't please them. Just be glad they're tuning in. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back. We'll talk a little bit about keys to the game and what the real blueprint for avoiding a last week embarrassment might be. I just said an embarrassment. That kind of had a negative tone. Is that also sunshine pumping?
I don't think so. Maybe that'll cover it. Let's check back in the chat in a while.
We'll be right back. He's EJ Wilson. I'm Joey Powell. This is Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
I'm Ryan Switzer, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
I'm Rebecca Johnson, and I'm part of the Will Johnson building team. Once we start a project, the project managers do a great job of sending a daily log. So every day, the client knows what's going on. They have an update of what's happened, what's going to happen 2 weeks ahead. We've found that that's brought a lot of peace of mind to our clients and answers a lot of questions. If nothing seems to happen and they know there's a log that inspections were today, it's not frustrating.
Go to willjohnsonbuildingcompany.com and see for yourself.
This holiday season, give the gift that sparkles right here at Olmos Jewelers. After a brief move, we're happily back home in the Eastgate Shopping Center.
You'll find gorgeous diamond engagement rings, timeless fashion pieces, expert in-house repair, and custom design, all from our family-owned boutique, where every detail matters.
So whether you're saying yes for the first time, celebrating milestones, or simply giving gifts that bring smiles, come explore Olmos Jewelers. Warm service and the sparkle to make this holiday unforgettable.
Olmos Jewelers, Eastgate Crossing, back where we belong, shining brighter than ever. Visit us today.
Hi, I'm Randy Cox, Chief Business Development Officer for Coldwell Banker, Howard Perry, and Walston. I oversee the 12 offices in the Triangle. We consider ourselves trusted advisors. We try and provide an education to the consumer that's coming in from out of the state or maybe not as familiar with Chapel Hill as those that are local. And so we try and provide them information so that they can make an educated decision on what is best for them.
I'm Hank Hill, and I sell propane and propane accessories. I think I've done pretty well.
Talking about that dang old 401k, man.
And that's Boomhauer. I used to get my financial advice from him.
Man, talking about that dang old Bitcoin and penny stocks, man.
Dang it, Boomhauer, that was terrible advice. Thankfully, John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management helped me fix my mess. If he weren't my friend, I'd hug him.
Dang old Hank and I ain't real, man, but Carolina Wealth Stewards doing business as dang old Rosewood Wealth Management is a real registered investment advisor in the state of North Carolina, man.
This basketball season, there's no better place to cheer on the Tar Heels than Town Hall Grill. Everything you need for the perfect game day. Delicious food hot off the grill. Ice cold drinks and big screens with the sound on so you don't miss a single play. From tip-off to overtime, Town Hall Grill brings fans together with the energy and excitement of being at the Dean Dome. Wear your Carolina blue and make Town Hall Grill your game day home for Tar Heel basketball.
Rally House, Shop every team in town. College and pro. Come on, it's time to go.
The season starts at Rally House. From jerseys and hats to tumblers for game day, it's where outrageous selection meets every fan style.
Carolina Pride, we bring the heat from the Dean Dome floor to Franklin Street. Rally House. Rally House. It's your city, it's your house, it's a Rally House.
Level up your fandom in-store or online at rallyhouse.com.
Bring them out, bring them out, bring them out, bring them out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
VIPs coming live from the VIP. Heard the nightlife, lost life with that dream. Hope the feds in the state want to
Inside Carolina Live. Special shout out to Clifford Harris, also known as Tiff, also known as T.I., for his live performance, bringing us back from the break there. No? Bring them out, bring them out.
It gets the people going.
It's provocative. Nobody knows what it means.
But I like it.
Inside Carolina Live, I'm Joey Powell. He's EJ Wilson. AJ is twerking against the board over here, which no other human being should see this. It's not fair. I'm glad the folks that are watching us online cannot see it because it is it's not safe.
It's damaging.
It's damaging. It will leave a mark. Keys to avoid embarrassment tonight. And I deliberately called this segment that because I think if you go out and drop another bad loss at NC State, it is embarrassment. I think you can, if you lose and you've acquitted yourself well, that's different.
Yeah.
But don't go and get skull dragged by a mediocre NC State team. And that was one of the things I think that was a struggle about looking at some of Mac Brown's squads here. I mean, he had some elite quarterbacks and they still just couldn't find a way to get it done over there. And so you consider those things. North Carolina needs to figure out ways to not embarrass themselves tonight. Let's talk about how they can start fast. I think a lot of people want to start fast. Most coaches want to start fast. Some coaches will decide that, all right, we're going to kick the ball away and we're going to start on defense. But I think for North Carolina, if you get a chance to take the ball first, you take it.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to find a way to score. They've done fairly well in their first scripted drives of the year, all year, going all the way back to the game they can't take away from us. And that's the first 6 real life minutes of TCU. They've done okay in that, kind of in that consideration. I think they've got to do the same tonight, and they've got to go put points on the board early against NC State, if only to take the crowd out of it, or to give themselves a little bit of extra step.
I think it's a double-edged sword but honestly, I think taking this crowd out of it is more importantly. I know we've kind of harped on what NC State's crowd can do to kind of infuse life into that team, but I mean, we saw it a few years ago at the debacle over in Carter Finley where we pretty much lost the game within the last 2 minutes. So crowd noise is a real thing, and I agree with you. I do think we need to go out and we need to get the ball, and we need to go out and score, and then we also need to maybe not, if we don't score on that second possession, I think that we at least need to get in field goal range. We need to threaten. If we're going for it on 4th down inside of the 30 on that second drive, I think that's a vast improvement for what we've seen over the year with being able to put together two consecutively good drives against a Power 4 team. And yes, I do think this is really going to be about avoiding embarrassment because yes, we don't have the talent that we've had on some past UNC teams, but guess what? NC State doesn't either.
They don't either.
And I think this will set the tone for things beyond this. I mean, we've talked recruiting, we've talked confidence, but I think this gives a chance to really create some solidarity in that locker room. So maybe some of those guys who maybe in the middle of the season thought they were leaving, they're like, no, this kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. We ended with a little success. I want to come back and chase some more of that with this group of guys. But as we all know, that's not the mentality of most athletes today, but we have to go out here and we have to execute. I don't think this can be a game where, if we barely lose, we're happy. Yeah, that it's going to add a little bit more of validity and it's not going to be as embarrassing, but we got to end these streaks. I think I was listening to the Game Plan podcast, and they said over the last 40 years, NC State is at, if they win tonight, that'll be 3 5-game winning streaks that they've had against us. And I think the last one, the one that we saw, ended with the Geo touchdown back in 2012, and then we had another in 2019, another game that we also watched together and broke that streak. So to your point earlier, yeah, we are pretty good when you and I can find a safe space to watch these games together. But we need to go out here and we need to see a performance to set the tone early in the game. We need to score some points. I think we've proven that we can have some of that physicality on defense, but we really need to get that offense going. And I want to see a completely well played game tonight.
I think something that's incredibly important too is just take care of the ball. Just don't put the ball in danger. I think that's something where a lot of people have bagged on Gio Lopez this season, and rightfully so. But if you look at the last few games, he's done much better of not putting the ball in danger. He's making better decisions with the ball. And I don't know if that's familiarity with the playbook, if that's because his receivers have started to build a little more chemistry with him, but he's not putting the ball into danger. You absolutely cannot give the football away in Raleigh. Short fields will get you beat in a tough environment. And that's where I think that if there's a way to place a premium on the ball more than they typically have, I think you got to do it tonight. I mean, if you can remember when you referenced that game a couple of years ago where NC State came back from what seems like 2 touchdowns down in less than 2 minutes, that was because of playing conservative and dumb turnovers. And if you can kind of rein that stuff in, the conservative thing I think is going to be fascinating to watch. Bill Belichick is conservative as it gets, right? I wonder if tonight, if he still plays conservatively because it's in his DNA, or if you start recognizing things. And maybe because it's the last game of the year, maybe he plays for 4 down drives a little bit more than usual. Maybe he does try to leg things out, and maybe he does try to spice things up as opposed to playing it close to the vest as he's done in the past. I don't think a Leverett can change his spots, but I do think if there's a night where he wants to get squirrely, this would be it, right?
Oh yeah, it has to be tonight. You have to. I think as your first game in this rivalry, if he does truly plan to be in charge of this program for the next 3 to 4 years, I think he needs to set the tone in this rivalry early, and he needs to set it often throughout this game. And yes, it is. Bill Belichick is notoriously conservative, but one thing he's also known for is adjustments, being able to make those halftime adjustments, being able to adjust on the fly. And I think tonight is going to be a night where he's going to have to do that. There's nothing to lose, but at the same time, everything to gain. We're not talking about bowl eligibility if we win this game tonight. We're talking about setting the tone, building a culture, and taking back some of those bragging rights. Bragging rights are important, people.
How can North Carolina, we talked earlier about potentially doing a little of that medium tempo stuff. Again, not hurry up, but also not this, run the clock down to 3 to snap it every time and just really churning possessions up that way. How can North Carolina do that tonight and still play keep away?
I think that we need to have some positive momentum on some of those plays. We can't have negative plays. If a play only gains 1 or 2 yards, we're still moving forward and have a chance to really kind of stay on track a little bit if we're able to have a lot of success on that second down. And if we're in second and long, I mean, that sets us up for some nice shot plays or something like that. But we have to go out there, and I think execution is gonna be the name of the game. To your point earlier, we can't turn the ball over, and we have to have some of those explosive plays. But I think explosive plays, not having those negative plays, is going to keep us be able to have that tempo. And what that tempo does, it makes you feel like somehow you have momentum. It makes you feel like if you're not in the huddle or waiting all of that, it makes you feel like that you're at a steady pace. It feels a lot more like practice, to where you start humming and the coaches just start calling the plays, and there's no huddle. You're calling at the line. Yeah. When you're in that type of flow state, and I know that's kind of a buzzword now, but it truly feels like a flow state when that happens. There's a lot of times, even as a defensive player, if the offense is going no huddle, sometimes that's better for us because they're not breaking the huddle, and I'm have to watching where everybody's go. I'm seeing what formation these guys are generally in, and if I've watched film, there's only so many plays that can come out of that thing. So it actually helps us get a little bit more prepared.
It's basic psychology, right? If the mind is distracted, then it can't be thinking about, this, that, or the other. You're not overthinking, you're just playing. I would love to have seen North Carolina go to a little more RPO action earlier this year for that very same reason. Offensively, just give them some sort of manufactured flow, right? To steal your word, maybe make it where it's not there. Yeah. And you can do that by things like RPOs. And I feel like that would have been nice to work out about 4 or 5 games ago, but whatever. North Carolina has done okay with that some. I'm not sure why they haven't gone to it more, but who knows? Clearly that will be something to watch as we get into the off season. I think it's pretty much given that I think it's pretty much given that Freddie Kitchens is no longer going to be the offense coordinator here. But I would love to see whoever they bring in as a coordinator and whoever the quarterback is next year, whether it's Gio Lopez or somebody else. I think the RPO game is gotten to where it's basically just one decision for the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got, receivers that are sure-handed and catch the ball over the middle of the field, you can beat teams that way. You can also string together 10, 11, 12 play drives that way. And that's how you make up for not having maybe the same level of talent that an opposing team has. You're strengthening you're lengthening your possessions and you're shortening theirs. I would love to have seen more of that. Who knows? Maybe we hold out some hope and it happens tonight. But I think Gio has shown that he's okay doing that. They just don't run it a lot.
Mm-hmm. We need to take the Princeton basketball approach. I mean, back in the 80s, everybody was saying, oh, this is boring offense that Princeton's running. But they didn't have the athletes that some of those teams were playing. But they beat a lot of those teams because they knew their stuff better than anyone else knew it. And it became second nature.
Well, I mean, they could run it with their, could run it with their eyes closed.
Exactly.
And that's the type of thing where, if you go back and look at how good Sam Howell was for North Carolina, I mean, literally, he was just so good at diagnosing where the ball needed to go when they were running, they were running all these RPO actions. And it opened so much more up for them on the rest of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're just playing that kind of stuff, it gives you so much of an entirely different world of a playbook to tap into. And they just haven't done that a lot this year. It will be fascinating to see if any of that changes tonight. How can North Carolina's defense keep NC State from kind of, having these short fields? Do they get a little more aggressive? Because again, they're not going to blitz a ton, but do they get a little more aggressive with disguising pressures? Do they get a little more aggressive with maybe sending guys off the edge than they have all year? Because you've got to, like we said earlier, you've got to give CJ Bailey some muck in front of him, but you also want to make it harder for NC State to go the length of the field.
I do think switching it up a little bit and disguising some of those pressures is going to muddy it up for him. And that's what we were talking about earlier in the show. When you get pressure on CJ Bailey, he goes from being a good quarterback to slightly below average quarterback, which most quarterbacks are, but the drop off with him is kind of significant when that pressure's in his face. And I do think that we need to go back to some of that bend but don't break. I think we've been giving up a few too many big plays over the last few weeks, and I think that's really been different. Been the difference. If you take away some of those plays, we're still playing solid defense, and I think it's going to be easy to get back to that. But with some of those creative pressures coming off the edge, maybe try to come at CJ off of his backside, or have that pressure traditionally up in his face. I know he's going to have Thompson and Abu Jade in his rearview mirrors, and they're going to have a game plan to block those guys. But we need some pressure from Mims and my boy Leroy Jackson in the middle. Let's send Simpson in the house when we can, and let's be creative with it.
Eat some blocks, man. Have the big guys in the middle eating some blocks. We haven't talked about third down much. I think that's probably the biggest place where NC State has been good this year. It's been because they've been successful on third downs. And you're listening, you're like, yeah, Joey, that happens in most places. But it's incredibly been kind of an acute thing to watch for NC State. Has there been more of a pressure on third down for North Carolina this year than maybe tonight? I would say the Wake game, but the offense couldn't do anything for Wake, so it didn't matter. But tonight, I just feel like it's really about, can they get off the field on third down on defense?
I definitely think it's going to be big. It's going to be big not only for them on the defensive side of the ball by controlling and setting the tempo for that game and not really giving CJ Bailey a chance to use his athleticism, and to get our guy JJ, we're going to refer to him as the tight end Jolly or Jolie, however you refer to him. If we can keep the ball out of his hands and not keep him going and pay some special attention to him on third down. And I hate to sound this disparaging, but I just don't think they have a lot of guys offensively that can beat us straight up man to man. If we're talking athlete to athlete. And I think that gives the ball back to our offense a little more. Let's put our offense in some good situations. Let's get them some shorter field. Let's give them an opportunity to really have some momentum, because I think we've shown that if we can get in position, we have a place kicker that can make some kicks. Not saying he's going to go out there and make some 50-yarders, but I think that if we can keep this game tight and it does come down to a kick, I have confidence in our guys, but that's only going to be with us getting the ball, us stopping them on third down, and really eliminating the big plays. And I think if we can do that, we really neutralize what has been the strength, one of the few strengths for NC State's offense this year.
Is there a way North Carolina tonight can overcome execution by having a little more verve or a little more swag or a little more attitude about them?
Absolutely. There's nothing that's going to blow up a play more than somebody running right through your chest. If you're pulling the guy and somebody's blowing him up, well, it doesn't matter how good the play is set up from there. That play is not going to go anywhere. If we have guys defensively who are just busting up the middle of the play or holding down their coverage on the outside, then there's nothing going to do. It doesn't matter how well you execute. If we have someone on the screen, they throw a screen to a guy and we make the tackle right there after he's taken a couple steps, yes, they technically executed, but playmakers came and they made plays. I'm pointing to one play exactly back during my playing days. It's come up on a lot of tapes. Charles Brown, when we were playing against Miami, when he absolutely decimated that block, they had that thing set up. But if that player hadn't been a playmaker or uses athleticism and diagnostic abilities, then that play would have happened. They probably would have gained 15 to 20 yards off that play. So absolutely, that gusto, that verve, that attitude and swag can overcome execution.
Well, I know the folks listening and watching this show are going to hope that there's a good bit of that tonight from the guys with the blue hats on. All right, we're going to take our final break. Last break of the year. When we come back, we'll give you our last words of the season. Stick around. You've been with us this far. Why would you leave now?
Why would you leave?
We'll hand it off at 6:30 to the guys over at the network, Jones and all them. They'll get you ready for Tar Heels in West Raleigh tonight at NC State. Kickoff is at 7:30 on the ACC network.
Nice.
Started on national television on Labor Day weekend, and now you're just kind of squirreled away on the ACC network. I mean, I guess it's better than the CW, but either way, this is Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
I'm Shimon Williams, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
Hey, Tar Heels, Adam Bishop here, senior pastor at New Hope Church in Durham and a big Carolina fan. Whether you're celebrating a win or down at halftime, you'll find hope, community, and a place to belong at New Hope. For over 20 years, we've been a diverse faith family where people build lasting friendships and make a difference together. There's a seat waiting for you. Visit newhopechurch.org. We can't wait to meet you, and God bless our Tar Heels.
When Andy Dufresne escaped from Shawshank with all of the warden's money, just where do you think he went? Well, yes, he went to Mexico, but first he had to go see John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management. And if you want your money to last, you should go see John, too.
Shawshank Redemption is a fictional story, and Ellis Redding isn't real. However, Carolina Wealth Stewards doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management is in fact a real registered investment advisor with the state of North Carolina.
Rally House, shop every team in town, college and pro. Come on, it's time to go.
The season starts at Rally House. From jerseys and hats to tumblers for game day, it's where outrageous selection meets every fan's style.
Carolina Pride, we bring the heat from the Dean Dome floor to Franklin Street. Rally House, Rally House. It's your city, it's your house, it's a Rally House.
Level up your fandom in-store or online at rallyhouse.com.
This is Jeff Denny with Generator Supercenter of the Triangle. We are the #1 Generac residential installer in North America. 80% of the homeowners that have a generator have a Generac. We want to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what are your fears, wishes, desires. And then how do we do this project the most efficiently? We're also here to give you peace of mind, protection, safety, and security. Go to GeneratorSuperCenterOfTheTriangle.com. That's GeneratorSuperCenterOfTheTriangle.com.
For over 2 decades, there's been no better place online for the Tar Heel sports community than Inside Carolina. Now with the On3 network, you can still find us at InsideCarolina.com, but you will need to reactivate your subscription, and you can do so today for $1. Access in-depth daily content by joining the best community for Tar Heel sports around. The Tar Heels are your hometown team, and Inside Carolina is your hometown site for Tar Heel sports.
I'm Jeremy Salemson with CIMG Residential Mortgage. There are optimistic signs and trends in housing these days, so you may be asking, is this the right time to buy or sell, and what can I afford? Well, we're here to help you buy or refinance your home with an experienced team, creative solutions, personalized service, and efficient systems. Contact us at CIMGINC.com and see firsthand the advantages of lending on a first-name basis. NMLS number 39460.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Oh, my friend,
attachment, something they didn't understand.
Inside Carolina Live. Last segment of the year. Easy J. Wilson, I'm Joey Powell. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Hope you have lived through a massive Black Friday shopping trips or whatever it is that you've done for this holiday. If you've still got in-laws at your house, kick them out. They've been there long enough. Get rid of them. Hit the bricks because you are going out.
Make them put the Christmas tree up first, then kick them out.
Dude, I woke up yesterday and the tree was up in my house. Like my wife and daughter had already been up, and it wasn't like I slept in. Like wife and daughter had already been awake, and the tree's up, everything's decorated. There's the whole house just totally 100% decorated.
Nice. Means you don't have to do it. Hey, that's a win.
No, they've learned. They've learned.
Massive win.
If I'm involved with the decorating,
it's not getting decorated.
It ain't getting decorated,
Correct.
and it's probably going to be like the Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
Well, if you don't put it up,
or I'll hang up a sign that says like "Merry Christmas, you filthy animals." That'll be all I do.
There you go.
I will say I was impressed by my son. This is my good parenting win of the year. He came and woke me up yesterday, and he goes, "Dad, we should watch that Christmas movie again." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He means Christmas Vacation. So
I thought he was going to go Die Hard.
That's also a Christmas movie. Yeah. That counts as well. Welcome to the party, pal. Guys, last segment of the year. Tar Heels tonight at Carter Finley Stadium to play NC State. Resetting the year, there's no sugarcoating this. I mean, this team underachieved. I will say I think the preseason expectations of this team winning, 10, 11 games were way out of sorts. But I do think the schedule was soft enough that if things would have been better, they could have won 8 games. I mean, we mentioned already there's 2 games they left on the field just because of, coming up short on a 2-point conversion and fumbling going into the end zone. That changes things right there to potentially a 7-win season. You go eke one out somewhere else, and maybe you've got, so I think 7. I think Vegas had them at 7.5 too. So, this season was underwhelming. There's no way to shake it out. It just wasn't good. But then you have this chance tonight to end things on your own terms, to send a bunch of just foaming at the mouth, rabid opposing fans back home unhappy. That's got to be worth something, right? And so you're thinking about, how do you get your head right? What do you do? What do the players owe each other in a game like this?
I mean, I would think that it's the loyalty to them, even though it's a group of guys that really kind of came together this year. I think it's the loyalty that lets you know that, hey, things didn't go the way we wanted them to, but I'm not going to quit on you. I'm going to be here for you. And a lot of that, I think of that speech that Jameis Winston made is like, I'm going to support him. I'm going to be there for him. Exactly. Yeah. And we need to eat some W's tonight. But in all seriousness, like I do think that there's a lot owed to these players. Like when I was playing, like a lot of the things if I had to do them for myself, a lot of those the extra mile that I went, I probably wouldn't have. But when you have a guy you're looking next to you, a guy you're accountable to, that changes things significantly for you. So I 100% think that they owe them something. I think that the seniors that have stuck around, and I don't know how many guys we have there who've been in the program for longer than 3 years and will be leaving the program this year, but it's owed to those guys. I mean, those guys haven't had a victory against NC State in their career. So, I mean, we need to go out and we need to really show out for them and show out for our university. Like this is a bit bigger than football, I think, tonight. This is pride in your university, pride on that interlocking NC on your helmet. Even if you're a quote unquote mercenary who's been hired for 1 year, when you're in it, you're in it. And I believe that if you spent 1 year or 1 month here, Tar Heel born, Tar Heel bred. So I think that they got to lay it on the line for each other.
Do you ever remember a time where, you felt bad because one of your teammates was going out with a loss and you felt like, you wished it hadn't gone that way for him?
I would say probably for me, it would be my junior year. So Ken Swan-Balmer was a very, very good friend of mine. Our dads had known each other. We played high school basketball against each other since I was a sophomore. And he really, truly, I won't say is a brother to me. Love that guy to death. And in that bowl game, even though, he knew he was going to be a first-round draft pick, none of that was ever mentioned. If it was talked about, we brought it up. So to not be able to go out there and give him a victory, because, I mean, he really set the tone for that program for us. I mean, he had kind of suffered through some of the John Bunning days, and it really helped us turn around when Coach Davis got there. And I think he was vital in making sure that the Davis recruits and the Bunning recruits who were there all put that to the side and became one family. So to not be able to give him a win is something that honestly still bothers me a little bit to this day. It's that he's the type of guy that he's never going to bring it up, but I really wish I could have gave him a win simply for not only being the type of leader he was, but just being a friend for me my whole life.
Do you ever feel like the fans deserve something? Like, the players always talk about how much they tune things out.
Mm-hmm.
Players always talk about how insulated they are and how singularly focused they are, but players are also humans. Have you ever felt like, I want to go do this for the people that care about a university that are outside of the locker room? Is that a real thing? Do some guys feel that?
It is definitely a real thing. And I know that a lot of people will be surprised by me saying this, but there are a lot of hardcore UNC football fans. And I've been kind of running into them a lot lately to they're like, and for me, it's like people that remember when I played, and I'm like, I played on a team full of superstars. Like, and the fact that you knew who I was, that kind of speaks to your fandom. So I personally felt like I owed those people something. When we did meet the Tar Heels that day, we weren't meeting a bunch of adults. We were meeting elementary school kids, middle school kids who their dream was to be like us, was to come to Carolina. And at the time where we weren't really making any noise nationally or even in the state, it feels good for somebody to have that type of confidence in you. So when we go out and we don't perform well, it hurts. And it's like, it's not always winning and losing, but if we didn't go out and play hard, if they're constant loafs on the field, you felt like you let the fans down. I never felt like wins or losses were letting the fans down, but not playing with a particular effort and at a certain standard for me felt like I was letting the fans down. So like I said, you have to find the opportunity to play for as many people as you can when you don't feel like playing for yourself is going to get you across the line.
I always feel like, this means more. I feel like this means more for the fans who lose than for the fans who win. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's true, but it always feels that way. Mm-hmm. It always feels like, carrying the loss, especially if it's a painful loss, or if it happens in overtime because of a missed kick, or if it happens because, they score 2 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of a game. Like, I feel like the losses always hurt more than the wins feel good in a rivalry game. Is that true?
Oh, it's 100% true, because when you win, you expected to win. We're better than you guys. You're our rivals. Well, when you lose, it's like, how could you lose to that team? Or you could be the fan, well, they had this, and that, and that's why we lost. But that still hurts, because you, as a win, you have 365 days to kind of celebrate that, so you can spread it out a little bit. But when you lose, you try to get that intense feeling out, and hopefully it'll dissipate within a couple of months, but it never does. I still feel every loss that I had as an athlete, point blank, period. I can't tell you some of the games that we won, but I can for sure, detail by detail, tell you some of the games that I've lost. And that's what the great athletes will tell you. Tiger will tell you, Scottie Scheffler, Michael Jordan, anybody will tell you that you really have to hate losing more than you love winning. When you love winning, you'll take shortcuts to get there. Right. But when you hate losing, you will try to take every situation out of play that could put you in a position to not be successful.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, you wake up the next day and it's just miserable because you've, especially if you feel like you truly were the better team. Mm-hmm. I've heard guys talk about before, like that one loss that they can't shake, like that one, man, we had it, but it didn't work out. Were you, do you remember that game when TJ was quarterbacking and you guys were in Raleigh and you kind of had like 3 cracks at the end zone at the end of the game? What did that game feel like in the locker room? Because I feel like that was one of those where you guys had multiple chances to beat a state team that you were better than, and it just didn't happen.
It was tough, man. That was a tough scene after that locker, because we're all looking around like, what do we do differently? And we were like, that was one of those nights where we weren't worried about going out. We were trying to watch this film to see how in the world did we not win this game? How did we not come out victorious? So those things sting, man. And I mean, especially with it being against your rival, like when you feel like you've gone out there and you've done what you need to do, and you're giving yourselves the opportunities, you were playing that complementary football, which has been a theme of the show all year, and you don't execute, it is tough. So, I mean, I don't know what you really can. That's not a time when you go up and say, hey, well, we'll get them next time, guys. It's just one of those things where it's like, hey, how do we get better? Let's be. That's when those honest come to Jesus conversations happen. It was like, hey, you didn't do what you need to do. I didn't do what I need to do. Let's hold each other accountable even more, so this won't happen again.
So if you're having your last little talk to your teammates, mm-hmm. you're having the last word before you guys head out the last time. What are you saying tonight? And you can be as short or as long-winded as you want to be.
I'm saying right now, and I'm being perfectly honest, like we have not played well this year. This has been a pile of hot garbage. What are we going to do to change this? Or if I'm a senior and if we have the same group we had when I was at Carolina, all of us are going to be playing on Sundays one day. But none of that matters when we all get back together at homecomings or events for our teams. If we're not talking about these games we're won, we're talking about those games where we had almost, and that's when you become a high school Harry. When you're constantly talking about could have been, should have been, we should have done that. So. It is crazy. I mean, it puts me in the mind of Ed O'Neill from Married with Children. Exactly, man. So it sucks when you don't have that. I mean, luckily, but so what I'm telling guys is we got to go out here and we got to play. If you 100% clarity of how we talk to each other in the locker room. If you need to be carted off this field, this game, you got another few months to heal up till the season starts because we don't have a bowl game. If you got to play with a broken arm to win this game, you play with a broken arm. And I've seen guys try to do it. I've seen guys who obviously have concussions try to go back in the game for that. So we just got to bear down and you got to pull everything you have, not just 100%, that 110%. Like if you don't catch a full body cramp out here tonight, then you weren't playing hard enough. So that's really the message. We were getting in each other's face, which is I think why that culture thing is so important. I'm
coming in the locker room with a big giant bottle that has Tussin written on the front of it. You break a bone, rub some Tussin on there, let it seep into the bone real good. If you got a broken leg, you'll be fine. There doesn't need to be any sort of leaving it out there tonight. All right, Score prediction. What does the game look like? Who are you going with, and how does it unfold?
Since it's Christmas time, I'll start off by saying, in my mind, I think that UNC is going to actually go out here and execute tonight. But if I'm being a realist based on what I've seen, I think that I don't know if we've shown the necessarily the testicular fortitude to go out here and take this game tonight. So I'm gonna say 21-10. And I can't say the other team, but I don't have us win.
Not UNC.
Yeah, not UNC.
Okay. I don't think it's I think North Carolina scores tonight, but I think they end up getting in a shootout and losing. And again, if it's close, you always have to think the home team's going to have something to say about it. I'd love to be wrong, but I think it ends up being NC State 31, Carolina 27 or something like that. Which is another reason I'm glad I'm not going to road games. Like the last thing you will do is go deal with that sort of environment and walk out with a giant L around your neck.
Oh yeah. It's not pretty coming out of Carter Finley. Even if you win sometimes, some of the things that those folks will say to you make you feel like you lost.
Well, nobody likes animal husbandry at the in the parking lot when you're leaving.
You're guaranteed to see.
Nobody wants to see that. That's not fun for anybody. There are kids here. We're not doing this. So a couple of things before we shut this thing down for the season. I just want to say a few thank yous. First off, to our man AJ, who has been with us year round on the I'm looking at your hat, the D-Bat Ranch. Okay. Has been with us all year, just making everything happen, making sure that the hamster stays in the wheel, making sure that we're on the air and all that stuff. I'm very, very appreciative of that. But want to thank everybody who listened this year, whether you caught the whole show or tuned in for 5 minutes or just accidentally clicked the live stream while you're trying to find the ACC or the CW network, whatever. We appreciate all of you guys equally. I want to thank Johnny T-Shirt for sponsoring everything, because without them, EJ and I would probably be doing this show on a folded table behind a quick stop somewhere.
We make it work.
I'm grateful for Johnny T-Shirt for making those things happen. Grateful for all of the Inside Carolina crew around us for kind of putting up with us, making sure that we had what we needed to put a show on the air and pretending not to hear things that we probably shouldn't have said when the microphone was live. And also I'm just grateful for the fans, subscribers, and folks that have listened to us. You've stuck with this team and this show, and frankly, through more ups and downs than maybe your cardiologist recommends, you kept showing up for us, and we'll keep showing up for you. We're grateful for that. We appreciate everybody for making us a part of their season. Hopefully the Tar Heels can give you something to go home at the end of the year happy about tonight. But for EJ Wilson, for Jason Staples, I want to make sure you guys know to watch the day after tomorrow morning on the IC YouTube page with Tommy and Buck and Jason. They'll break everything down for you. As soon as we get out of here, we'll hand it over to the folks at the network who will get you right up to kickoff. But until next time, for EJ, for Jason Staples, for everybody at IC, I am Joey Powell. This has been Inside Carolina Live.
It's time for the Chapel Hill Tire Drive Happy Drive of the Game. In another epic UNC Duke football game, the Heels rallied from 14 points down in the second half to take a lead in the fourth quarter, thanks to their longest drive of the year. A 9-play, 91-yard drive that was capped off by an explosive